there hasn't been a client yet that I haven't been able to pay for myself in the first year by uncovering excessive expense, under-received invoices, and no question for the business owners, tax planning strategies that help save them more than they pay me in taxes. And not by doing anything weird, just by like implementing a good, self-employed 401k or, various simple things that people just are not educated on and don't know anything about.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a great one. Actually, it's going to be a continuation of a great one. This is actually part 2 of an amazing conversation that I had with Joe DiSanto, who is a former owner of a Los Angeles-based multi-million-dollar production company and is now the founder of a finance, business, and real estate firm called Play Louder. Here's the balance of that conversation. Enjoy. Now, the other thing I want to say is that, you've done a lot of work and training and understanding for yourself, for your own life, how you're going to live your life, and you've created certain results in your life that are valuable to other people, and you've demonstrated that knowledge, experience, and results are valuable to the marketplace when positioned appropriately.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and that's why I was kind of excited to come on your show, because really the lion's share of what I'm doing, time-wise for people and my clients is bookkeeping. And it's critical. It's what informs, a lot of the decisions they'll make. It is, by the way, I should say, I like to say bookkeeping is incredibly important, but it is the past. Part of what a CFO also does is help people look and understand what is coming in the future, but you use the information from the bookkeeping to assess what the future might bring. Sorry, that was a little bit of sidebar. But yeah, I kind of came to it from the opposite direction. I came to it from the business ownership mindset, and it's I really was looking to work less, but do something I liked, make money, but work part-time. And doing bookkeeping kind of just was this natural thing. But what has made me unique, I think, and just a kind of a no-brainer for people to hire me, is the fact that I'm giving more than that. It's I'm doing the books and I'm giving them that data, but I'm really helping them understand it and make sense of it. Because a lot of the reason people also don't do it, and they don't do a lot of the stuff I talked about in terms of just the holistic big picture planning, is that they're really busy. I mean, it comes down to that. When you own a business, you're working a lot. I mean, I used to work at least 60 hours a week, and you don't have that much time to then on the weekends, you're tired and you want to hang out with your kids or whatever, to go sit and do bookkeeping or whatever, even for your personal life, even though it's good for you. So it just is one of those things that people are I'm going to get to it. And they literally years go by and they just haven't done, enough planning for themselves. So I kind of come out of nowhere and they're okay, you're going to do bookkeeping. But then all of a sudden I'm just giving them all this other information. And I've quickly realized in the last couple of years I've been doing this, they're just not getting that information from anywhere, as sad as it is to say. And a lot of the time when it comes down to the tax planning and stuff like that, people are always well, shouldn't my CPA be doing that for me? Shouldn't they be telling me this? And I'm you know what? Yes and no. It would be great if CPAs went out of their way to solve everyone's financial problems. But I love my CPA and I have a really good, close relationship with them. I've kind of used them to educate myself in the tax space. And I've brought all my clients over to my CPA. So I manage between personal and business returns, like 35 returns with them. So like I'm kind of like a ultra client, I guess. But, they do like over 1,000 tax returns in a year, right? At my CPA's firm. When you do that many tax returns, like you don't have time to go out of your way and like grab somebody that hasn't been managing their finances all year and throws a pile of crap on your desk to like, solve all their problems. Like they're just, they don't have the time to do that. And if you pay them to do tax planning and bookkeeping and all that, they might do that more. Well, certainly they would because you're paying them. But a lot of my clients have said, they have a hard time getting their CPA on the phone. They're constantly waiting. They're, so, but the bookkeeper is there like regularly, you're in regular contact. So I've kind of learned that you don't need to be a CPA to do accurate tax planning. You just can't go file the return and pretend you're a CPA. So I am like this go-between now with my clients and the CPA. And I do a lot of the heavy lifting for the CPA, but I'm this person that's far more available to the clients. Like, they can call me anytime. Like they don't have to make an appointment. They don't have to wait 2 weeks, And the way I do bookkeeping is very different than the way a CPA does. CPAs, whenever I've taken over bookkeeping that CPAs have been doing, CPAs do bookkeeping in a way that lines up with tax returns. And it's very difficult for your average person to digest the way they lay that information out, I found. So like one of my new clients, their complaint was like, well, one, it's hard to get in touch with their CPA. The information they get from the CPA both takes a long time. And then when they get it, it looks like a bunch of mush, like they can't really decipher it. And it's because it's all coded and like in this format that works for the CPA, but doesn't deliver good financial information very quickly, just in its visual format. So I do all the bookkeeping in such a way where you're going to be able to open your books, pull a report, and it's going to deliver extremely informative information in a format that you can quickly digest and is like the stuff you want to know. And I could do a whole show on explaining, the little ins and outs of that, but I kind of bridge this gap of like a CPA-ish character that knows a lot about taxes, but also like coming from the business owner mindset where I know what a business owner needs to know and wants to know and what they want to know quickly. And I like kind of do that like deciphering, I guess, And then when it comes to the taxes, it's like we pay the CPA to do the tax return. I get them the stuff. I give them a tax plan. I interface with them. And all they have to do is do the tax return, and if they can bring some more ideas to the table, great. If they can't, then we know, I know I've done a good job. And I do say about CPAs too, like I kind of look at it like when you go to the doctor. It's like you're not feeling good, you go to the doctor. The doctor might have some ideas, but that doesn't stop you from going online, maybe doing some research, being your own advocate, and going to the doctor with some thoughts of your own, and that annoys doctors actually. They're like, oh, great, you went online. I know you're like a internet MD and all that. But once they get over that, inevitably you bring something to their attention that maybe they're like, well, that's an interesting idea. We could consider that. Or you realize that your doctor doesn't know a lot about your specific problem and that maybe you should go get a second opinion. My wife does this a lot because she's really into health, and she's just learned and uncovered so many things doing her own research and brought a lot to bear for her own health concerns. And the reason that happens is because doctors and CPAs, they're just human beings. You know what I mean? Right. They're not like, they don't know everything. They have families. They're tired. They're busy. They have stuff to do outside of like worrying about your particular health concern or your tax concern or whatever. So you just kind of got to be prepared to do some of your own like work and like work with them, like engage. And I've always found like, with my CPA, they like people that actually engage and like do good preparation and ask, some questions, knowledgeable questions, and you have kind of a fun dialogue, and then they give you a bunch of extra information, and they think harder for you, if you're doing that. But again, that's time consuming to do, to educate yourself on taxes and tax planning and do a tax plan for yourself. So I kind of am bringing that to bear, and I think it's ultimately a unique service, right? But the funny thing is like the bookkeeper is the most well-positioned person in any organization to fill this gap if there is a gap. Like it's easy to do. It will make you be awesome and indispensable. And most importantly, it'll allow you to increase your fees, I think. Like I never came to bookkeeping knowing anything about how much people get paid, but I was curious and I asked for a couple bids for my local bookkeepers, and like they were like I got some offers to do my books for like $200 a month. And I was like, wow, $200 a month. You'd have to do just to make $60,000 a year, you'd have to be doing, oh God, I'm putting myself on doing the math. You'd have to be doing what, 50, is that right? 25 clients, 5,000 a month. Yeah. So you'd have to be doing 25 clients at $200 a month to make $60,000 a year without any cost. That's a lot of clients. You won't be able to do an awesome job for every client. You'll only be able to do bookkeeping for them. But if you get into the CFO mindset, which is not hard to be in, you just educate yourself on taxes. You think about, looking at helping them understand the future and not just the past, i.e. just the bookkeeping. You start explaining to them why that they need to extend their bookkeeping and financial management down and through their personal lives and what the benefits of that will be. And then you also, this is like an easy thing to do, because you're doing the books and you see where they're spending money, you figure out ways to help them save money and justify paying you more, right? So, for the average client, I charge $1,500 a month. And there hasn't been a client yet that I haven't been able to pay for myself in the first year by uncovering excessive expense, under-received invoices, and no question for the business owners, tax planning strategies that help save them more than they pay me in taxes. And not by doing anything weird, just by like implementing a good, self-employed 401k or, various simple things that people just are not educated on and don't know anything about. Even just the simple thing of like people that are single owners of their business, not being an S corp, that simple thing can save people a ton of money in taxes. And you're always like, why are you not an S corp? Why are you just overpaying in taxes? And they're like, I don't know. That's what my CPA said to do. So CPAs do, in my opinion, get it wrong plenty of times as well. So, I'm kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I'm taking it, like I said, bookkeeping with benefits of like turning this thing into kind of a unique take. And now I'm just calling it CFOing. And honestly, the reason I started doing that is because my CPA is very, she's always like, man, you're not a bookkeeper. You're a CFO really. And honestly, you're a better CFO than many of the CFOs that I'm dealing with. And you're bringing a lot more to the table for these clients. You could probably be charging them more. So I actually have to come to figure that out. She's like, you really need to charge people more.
Yeah, well, already you charge probably 5 to 10 times more than the average bookkeeper's charging in the marketplace. And I think that speaks to everything you've told us so far. I mean, I can hear it. Not everyone is at the position where they can walk up and start doing what you're doing, but you've really laid out a game plan, a roadmap, a playbook for what I would think many in the industry really want. They want to have a business that they help small business owners. They get paid really well for it, and they help those small business owners win and be successful financially. And that takes knowledge, time, energy, and all that good stuff. But anyone can get to where you've gotten to with the passion and desire to learn and to keep growing and delivering on. And even many that I've spoken to, work with in our community are already there, but yet they're not taking advantage of the opportunity of being that gap. Call it a CFO. I think many will have a tough time calling themselves CFO, but the reality is that you are and you use this word, and I've used this word many times, you are shepherding them through their financial matters in a way that gets them safely to where they want to get to. And that's valuable. And so it's, if you try to do it for everyone and try and be the lowest cost, let's acquire client, charge them little money, you're not going to have the time, as you say, to do the work that needs to get done. I mean, who wouldn't want to have you in their corner?
Yeah.
Helping them through. If a small business owner, who wouldn't want you? So not only are you doing great things for the clients, I mean, your retention, as you've already told us, is probably 100% retention of your clients.
Far.
So it's really powerful, and it's what we're all about here. It's what we want to empower empower business owners around their finances, help them understand these things. And so, just some really great strategies, partnering with your CPA, you're not going in there and trying to eat your cake and eat theirs too. You're actually bringing them some ice cream to go with their cake so they can get their job done faster and more easily, and give them recommendations. And so
that's
really cool.
Another thing I'll say, like most people I've come across with they're unhappy with their CPA. That's pretty much been true in every case except for one of my new clients. And I'm curious to meet their CPA because they really like them. But as a bookkeeper, if you're feeding a CPA firm, you're going to have a closer relationship with that CPA. They're going to kind of have your back. They're going to see you as kind of a big client, like a feeder. And they're going to give you preferential treatment. So like my clients, they pretty much only need to call me and we talk. And then if there's questions for the CPA, I do that. But the CPA answers my CPA answers my emails within the same day. Like we're kind of friends, right? So you kind of create a relationship, and the CPA ultimately has to do the tax return. They have to be on board with the tax strategy. They're going to be the person that's going to be in between IRS and the client if there's an audit, or something like that, because they're the licensed professional. And, and you can talk with your clients about tax issues. You're sharing information you've gathered from the CPA. And in my case, I read books or whatever. And I would just say, you guys, I'm not a CPA. So anything I say is just an idea that we bring to the CPA together, and we see if it's a worthwhile, concept. And most of the time it is, because taxes, they are complicated at extremely, high levels. But for your average small business, it's not like that complicated. And I have some sheets on my website, and if anyone wants to email me, like my tax planning sheet and like how I figure out what people's ultimate incomes are going to be for the year. Because a lot of times with the single owner businesses, like, I say don't do a payroll till the end of the year, just do draws. But they want to know like, well, how much do I plan and save for taxes? And we kind of figure that out. Like, I fill in all those gaps. It's not hard to do, but it brings so much more to bear. And like, in terms of charging more, it's a hell of a lot easier to charge more when you say, well, I just saved you, that plus another 40%. So you're not actually paying me more. I'm working for free and you're just getting extra money in your pocket. You know what I mean? It's like, make the charge me more conversation moot by finding the savings, whether it be through actual savings, by improved process, by tax planning, by whatever. But, it's hard to do that when you got 50 clients, that you're trying to get through their books every week. At $200 a month, 25 clients gets you $6,000 a year. In my case, that's 4 clients. So think about how much more I can do for them while also having more time for myself. But you're literally the person that can find the savings like more than any other person in the company, because you're doing the books. You see exactly what they spend money on, exactly where the waste is. And, simple things like go and audit the insurance policies, make sure they're not overinsured, and I've found that people, they've changed offices. They used to have a bigger office, whatever happened, they're paying more insurance than they need to. Like one of my clients, they had a client at some point that required a much larger like liability coverage. So they had $4 million of liability coverage. And when I started, I was like, why do you guys have $4 million liability coverage? You don't have that many employees and your office isn't that big. Turns out there was one client a couple of years ago that required that. They're no longer working with that client. So we brought their liability coverage back down to $1 million and cut their insurance bill by half. And there you go. It's like super easy. Just a couple of questions to their insurance broker. There's just a bunch of things like that. And, there aren't a ton, so exactly what you can look for. and see if you can get some savings out of the gate. And then after you get the savings, you go, by the way, I'm raising my rates because I'm implementing, ways to improve, do more of the CFO role. And so I can devote more time to my clients and get better results for people, that kind of a thing. I guess my business experience, and I did a lot of pitching and sales and, all that for big accounts. So I'm comfortable, kind of selling myself. And obviously that goes a long way. And a lot of that is obviously just having confidence in that I know a lot, and if you feel like you don't know all these things, it's always harder to do that. But a couple of books, honestly, the Rich Dad series of books I really like Lupo's of Real Estate is a great book. There's a lot of great tax strategy in there. Tax-Free Wealth is a great book. But you could probably pick any book, tax planning book off the shelf. They're going to have a lot of the similar strategies in there, but read a couple books. You'll be educated in that sense. Learn about entities, the difference between the LLCs and the corps and the S corps and the tax, differences of those things. A lot of the times people are just LLCs as straight pass-throughs, not being S corps because their CPA told them they could do less paperwork, and they're essentially overpaying in self-employment tax. That's like an easy fix that can save someone a lot of money. You just kind of, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit out there to save money for people, and they're always blown away. They're just so grateful, because they're just like, wow, I never would have figured that out on my own. And I don't know why my CPA didn't tell me that, but they didn't. And I'm really mad now. And then they're like, how's your CPA? Should I switch? And then I was like, hey, yeah, I love my CPA and I have shorthand with them. So yeah, if you don't like your CPA, come over to mine. So I just keep bringing clients over to my CPA, and that just makes them want to pick up the phone and talk to me more,
It's magical. Some of the other things you mentioned in an email that you sent me, reviewing things like insurance, as you already mentioned, health plans, retirement plans, financing, credit card interest rates, all of these savings that you save somebody. I mean, if you save somebody $100 in a month, but that's a recurring payment, that's $100 a month. Over 10 years, it's a lot of money. And so this concept of selling yourself is so important and so overlooked, because if I saved you $100 and I say, Joe, I just saved you $100, and I didn't do the math for them, don't expect that the other person's going to do the math and go, oh, yeah, no, but let me just think about it. You saved me $100 this month and next month and for the next 10 years. Joe, you sent me $10,000. It's like, yeah, that is up to us as value providers to make sure that it's like, hey, I just saved you $100 a month. And you know what? That's $100 a month. That's $1,200 a year. Over 10 years, that's $12,000. Let's celebrate. And I'm raising our rates.
Exactly.
And that's it. And I think many of our, the way we were brought up in our life, it's like, be modest, don't be a braggart. It's not bragging. But you can't have other people discover your value. Often they never will, because who are they focused on? Themselves.
Yeah. Well, and also if they're bidding out other bookkeepers, the comparable costs they're going to get are going to be low, right? So you kind of have to go and that's why I call it bookkeeping with benefits. Call it bookkeeping plus. Call it something else. But you can't argue. People can't argue with financial results, financial savings. And it's like you're like, I don't, just charge you arbitrarily. I charge you based on, in some part what I know I can save you. And a lot of people just don't go the extra mile, because, a lot of times, again, if you have 25 clients, it's hard to do that for everyone.
That's
you're
right.
Just trying to get through the actual books for them and get them prepared and get the emails off and all that. So one thing also that I did by accident, to be honest with you, which is now it's happened a couple of times, is I got referred to these guys who are clients now. And they had this very inexpensive bookkeeper. And, they were like, we feel like, we're getting bigger. Maybe we need someone that's a little more advanced. We want some financial, management kind of help, and so my friend recommended them to me. And, we had a couple conversations, and it took them a while to kind of get on board. I told them what I kind of charge monthly, and they're like, well, that's a lot more than I'm paying now. And I said, hey, well, whatever, And they said, well, how about this? Like, they kind of came up with this idea for me. They're like, would you just like, we just pay you to like go into our books and just kind of look around and just like see what's up, and tell us if like we're being dumb or not doing something right. Like, how much would you charge for that? And I said, yeah, I could do that. I came up with a price. I was like, all right, I'll do it a couple $1,000 and give me your QuickBooks and your basic stuff, your insurance and things like that. And I now call it the business health check, right? So, but I just made this up for them. And I was like, yeah, I'll go in there and I'll give you my thoughts. Who knows? Maybe we'll come out and I'll say you guys are doing it perfectly, or I'll have whatever ideas I can for you to save money. Certainly, is where I'll focus my time and make sure your process is good and all that. And then I did that, and essentially they really needed to be an S corp. They were not. They'd made a lot of money that year. We switched them to an S corp. I think they each saved like $15,000. Personally in taxes at the end of the year, and they're like, you're hired. And the $1,500 all of a sudden seemed like a steal, So that's a way to sell people. Like, say, hey, before you hire me, why don't you just pay me a flat fee and I'll go do my thing, and then I'll show you why you should pay me more. And lo and behold, if it's a small business and they don't have a CFO, you're going to find stuff. You're going to find ways to save the money. I mean, it's just, lack of attention in finances always breeds waste.
Absolutely. Wow. I absolutely love that. Some amazing strategies, some amazing talk tracks and thoughts that our listener can take on, the books you read, the investment you make in your education. If you're passionate about business, going in and really understanding business. You've mentioned a few books that, whether it's real estate or taxes or, understanding how businesses work and how money moves around, all of those things, a lifelong learning application. But if you take all of that learning, it does end up being valuable. And Joe, you've really demonstrated that your life experience and your learning and your investment in education, self-education is paying off greatly for you.
Yeah, I would say, I'm sure we're close in time, but I feel like one thing I'm an example of is that you don't need to have a CPA degree. You don't need a degree in economics. You don't need an MBA. You don't need to be a CPA in order to be good with money and help clients plan well and save, right? I mean, that's the cool thing about this gig is like, you don't even need to go to college. You just need to like read books, educate yourself and, think practically. And then you work with a CPA, obviously you need to. That's who's doing the tax return. You mine information from them. You can bring so much to the table and you don't have to be like classically trained, so to speak. You just have to, be the person that takes the time and pays attention for them. It's not rocket science, ultimately, It's just money, I guess.
Beautiful. Joe, this has been absolutely fantastic. If there's a way that you'd love for people to reach out to you and get in touch with you, if they wanted to find out or learn more, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, they can just hit my website, playlouder.com. I mean, I have a lot of my writings there, free information. So like if people are looking to educate themselves, a lot of what I just discussed, I have long articles, about these topics. I have a couple courses there. And actually one that's probably good for people is it's called the Financial Independent Roadmap, and it's meant for individuals. And it's basically kind of my little system of like mapping out your future. You were talking about like that whole trip to Europe and you hit the water thing. And that's exactly what I say in this little course I have. It's like, we're all heading somewhere, like our retirement, right? But when do you go on a road trip without first pulling out a map and like figuring out if you're on the right road? Like most of us in our retirement, we're like retirement there and never open a map. You're just driving, hoping you happen to run into it, right? Not a good plan. So I have these spreadsheets in my own little system of like kind of mapping out the road to retirement or financial independence, as the kids like to call it today. And that course alone actually lays out the way you can help people plan for their future. And obviously income into the business eventually, though, it is into your personal life, and it ultimately is bringing you towards this hopeful state of financial independence. So that's something people might check out, but otherwise there's lots of free information there too.
Beautiful. I'm sure many of our listeners will be going over there to check that out. I know I will be. Joe, I just want to thank you for your generosity on the show, and on behalf of our listeners, thank you.
Totally. Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed talking with you.
I did as well. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.